I just saw a white girl on my For You page talking about the word black fatigue. She said, "I'm so glad we're finally talking about this. We as a society are sick of y'all."
There were so many white people in the comments saying, we're sick of this. Did they think that we were going to be silent for this long? You guys, those are war cries, if I've ever heard them. Thousands of white people in a comment section saying, did they really think we're going to be silent for this long? That's not good.
I am so happy that this is being brought up. And oh, by the way, for us white people that have been around the block a long time, this isn't new to us. We've been dealing with this for over 40 years.
Okay, so we really need to talk about something that's been bothering me. And honestly, it should bother you too. There's a new trend happening where certain white folks are flipping the script. They're taking the term black fatigue, a term that was created to describe the real emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion that black people carry from years of racism and microaggressions, and they're rebranding it. But not in a supportive way. Nope, they're using it to describe their own frustration, like they're tired of us speaking up, tired of us calling out racism, tired of us just existing loud and proud. This isn't just wrong. It's dangerous. It twists the truth and erases the real meaning behind black fatigue. I want you to see this for yourself. Listen closely. Because what you're about to see is how white rage is being dressed up, rebranded, and sold back to us, as if they're the victims.
A viral video of a white woman talking about black fatigue and how we don't need to give the black community reparations because we weren't around during slavery and neither were they. There were thousands of comments. This was going viral so quickly. Fully expecting to see people fighting her in the comment section. No, thousands of comments of white people, mostly. There was one Native American that was like, as a Native, thank you for saying this. I was like, what? There were so many white people in the comments saying, we're sick of this. Did they think that we were going to be silent for this long? You guys, those are war cries, if I've ever heard them. Thousands of white people in a comment section saying, did they really think we're going to be silent for this long? That's not good. And then I looked back, I saved the video. Literally, this was like 20 minutes ago. I saved the video and then I was going to reference it in this one, but it either has been taken down or she took it down herself. She deleted it. But I know that you guys have probably seen it because it had 500,000 views by the time that it was taken down. The problem is there were so many people in the comment section bold enough to say things like this. Let me say it to all the red hats out there and speak in your language. No one cares about your feelings. We need to talk about facts. And if you don't like the facts, you can go cry about it. Here are the facts. There's a thing called epigenetics. Whatever happens to your ancestors affects your mentality, your emotions, and your physical body for generations after generations after generations. It makes you ill. It makes you suffer emotional triggers that you wouldn't normally have if your ancestors did not go through those things. That is science. Now let's talk about history. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Does that ring a bell? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you don't know what happened there and you're a red hat, let me tell you a little history lesson. The black community was crawling out of the hole that we left them in. And they created amazing communities where everybody was working together and they had fabulous education and people had money. The United States government bombed their communities, literal bombs dropped. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That wasn't even reparations. They were doing this themselves, cultivating this themselves, trying to bring themselves up. Any community that was systematically used and abused by the rest of society needs reparations. That includes Native, don't even get me started on Native Americans. I have a whole thing that I think they deserve, which some of y'all might even think I'm crazy, but this is about the black community right now. Yes, they deserve reparations. They get the short end of the stick almost every single time. This is not just a white, blue-haired woman talking about this. These are facts. And again, facts over feelings, right? Facts over feelings. Even though I don't think this way, nobody that I know thinks this way. You guys have made it very clear in the comment section that a lot of you do. Reparations isn't going to fix everything. What we need is a systematic approach to cultivating generations of people so that they can finally get a leg up in a world that has chopped them off at the kneecaps and continues to chop them off at the kneecaps. Right now, in low-income areas, the government is not giving these counties money for their education systems. Taxes that a certain area pays, I don't know if a lot of people know this, you should, But the taxes that certain areas pay directly affects the type of schools they have. The community is underprivileged. They're going to be underserved. And it's not going to get better. That is how our system in the United States is set up. Period. That right there needs to change. I don't want to hear any other white people talking about black fatigue. You think you're fatigued? And I've seen the discourse on Black TikTok with them talking about black fatigue as well. They do make some points themselves. But again, white people, those are their points to make. You keep your mouth shut. I was blown away. I knew I had to make this video because those white people are scaring me.
Black fatigue is when I can hear you 10 miles away in Walmart with your 5 fucking kids. Black fatigue is when you have no home training and you have no idea how to act in public. And a lot of it is culture. I've been in the hood. I've been in the fucking schools and the projects where I was the only white girl there.
When the weakest group of females in existence proudly expose themselves but aren't smart enough to realize it. Because imagine ending up living in the projects next to the very people that you look down on, even though you benefit more than anyone else from DEI, food stamps, and affirmative action. You have an entire system designed and rigged specifically to support your severe mediocrity and admit that you still failed. That's embarrassing.
Well, majority of y'all know someone who has been unalived by another black person. Way more than any instance of a black person being unjustifiably unalived by the police. That's black fatigue. As well as donating to Carmelo Anthony and Rodney Hinton Jr. When you aren't able to hold your own community accountable, that's a problem.
If we're being completely honest, the single solitary thing they spectacularly excel at is breeding the males who dominate every most wanted list in America. Rapists, mass shooters, PDF files, and being the very obedient doormats for these monsters they breed. God bless America. Meanwhile, black women are outpacing the superior males academically and entrepreneurially and doing it with fewer resources and none of the privilege.
And I can 100% guarantee you that it's culture.
Can you define anything about your culture outside of the extensive history of violence, control, and theft? I'll wait. I'd like to give some honorable mention of your consistent achievements, which include weaponizing your tears to end people's lives and bullying 5-year-olds and calling it patriotism. So accomplished.
Young men with mental disorders. Yeah, I remember y'all calling Carmelo Anthony a fucking hero when he was a distinguished young gentleman along with George Floyd, even though he swallowed a bunch of Fetty Wap and put a pew-pew to a pregnant woman's stomach.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
Meanwhile, you're only doing exactly what your ancestors have always done, and that's demonizing a black man so you can feel like he is justified in his unaliving. As far as Carmelo Anthony, let's just be real. You're just like your ancestors. You cannot do anything back to them when they are attacking you. Clearly. You are not even listening to the students. They all said that those 2 boys were horrible bullies. Let's continue.
What fucking culture are we taking from y'all, and who are y'all to say what people can and can't do?
Let's see. What culture have you taken from us? That was by far not the smartest question to ask. I can tell your elevator is just not going to the top. What about country music? How about rock and roll? How about every genre of music out there? You have actually stolen. And if you don't believe me, I want white people who think like her to get right up here on this app and tell me right now, what were y'all singing on the Mayflower that y'all still singing today? Come on. Don't worry. I'll wait. Can I just add this in right quick? Do y'all all remember Pat Poon and how he was stealing Little Richie's songs? That white man was literally recreating it word for word, singing his exact songs for white people because they were so hateful they couldn't tolerate it coming out of a little black boy's mouth. Hateful on another level. Let's continue. As far as saying who are we to tell what somebody can and can't do, that's just our ancestors coming out of her again. Come on, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, black people. They've never had any respect for anybody else's culture. That's just them. Let's continue.
All lives matter. I don't see color. White creators becoming famous for watered down versions of black culture.
That's because you determine how to treat a person based off of their color. The #1 creator on TikTok is a black man.
Is anybody going to tell her that they committed crimes against humanity with what they did to people based off the color of their skin? You took us into slavery based off the color of our skin. You took us on a transatlantic slave trade and then unalived over 100 million of us based off the color of our skin. And then centuries later, you got the nerve to sit up here in front of us and tell us that we treat people based off the color of their skin. Yeah, your light is definitely not the brightest.
Stop it. Get some help.
Like when y'all were making white people stand in front of the BLM protests, just in case y'all antagonize the police.
We were not making you stand with us at these protests. Black people, do we remember when those BLM protests broke out throughout this country, how there were a couple of videos right here on TikTok of white people breaking windows, shattering car doors, and it was black people who was recording them, telling them not to do this because we were going to get blamed for it. But I guess that went completely over her head. Let me throw in my 2 cents again right quick, black people. When we protest, it might be annoying. You're going to hear us yelling and we might block all traffic. When you protest, January 6th happened. Lives are lost and sugar honey iced tea is just all over the wall somewhere. Literally. Just nasty. Let me end it with this right quick, black people, because I heard a black woman say something in the comment section and I completely agree with her at this point in my life. We don't have a race problem. We have a problem race. Let that sink in.
Black fatigue. It's all over my FYP page.
We're going to circle back to that, I promise.
Thank you. I am so happy that this is being brought up. And oh, by the way, for us white people that have been around the block a long time, this isn't new to us. We've been dealing with this for over 40 years. Here's my story.
I'm going to save you the 7-minute racist story that he goes on to tell. I'm just curious. This is what makes you happy? Additionally, this is what happiness looks like? You look like you're a dime short of 10 cents. These people are falling all over themselves to come on the internet and tell us how for 40 years they've just been suffering in racist silence, and now they think it's fine to tell the general public about their true beliefs, which is how racist they are. And gee willikers, I wonder where they got that idea. Taking the term black fatigue away from black people and co-opting it into a phrase that means I'm tired of black people is just about the most on-the-nose white person thing to fucking do.
I just saw a white girl on my For You page talking about the word black fatigue. She said, I'm so glad we're finally talking about this. We as a society are sick of y'all. The whites are now saying, I've stayed quiet about this for too long. The ghetto behavior needs to stop. Oh! The term black fatigue was created by a black woman to describe the mental and physical toll that systemic racism has on black people. It does not mean an invitation for white people to talk about how you're sick of black people. I'm at a loss for words. That's probably the most on-brand white person thing I've ever seen. Y'all just expose yourselves completely that you're racist and you don't read. If you're interested, here's the book written by Mary Frances Winters, the woman who coined the term black fatigue. Please educate yourselves, I beg.
White people attempting to rebrand white rage by co-opting the term black fatigue as though it's a phenomena they actually experience but only recently found the language to talk about is both dystopianly weird and tragically on brand. The copying, the whitewashing, the centering themselves by playing victim. But what's ironically telling about it is that the concept of racial battle fatigue is not new. It's been around for decades, and the term black fatigue has been used by black people for quite a while. Mary Frances Winters wrote a book that came out in 2020 titled Black Fatigue, and it describes the mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion that black people experience because of systemic racism. Now, notice how black people didn't call that white fatigue, because the purpose is not to assign blame in order to justify bad behavior. It is called black fatigue because it is a harm that black people experience, and so their focus is on addressing and combating that harm. Whereas when white people talk about experiencing black fatigue, they are not talking about a harm that they experience because of black people or anybody else. They are literally telling on their own inability to live in society with black people. And that's not new either. That's a pathology that has existed for hundreds of years, but call it what it is, white rage.
So now that you've seen it with your own eyes, let's really talk about what's going on here. We live in a time where words have weight, where terms born out of lived black experiences, our pain, our resilience, our truth, are now being twisted, co-opted, and redefined by people who were never meant to carry those words in the first place. And one of the clearest examples of that is what we're seeing with the phrase black fatigue. This wasn't just a trendy phrase. It wasn't a meme or a soundbite. Black fatigue was coined by Mary Frances Winters, a black woman, to describe the deep, long-term exhaustion black folks carry because of constant racism, systemic oppression, and having to perform emotional labor just to exist in spaces that were never built for us. It speaks to the burnout that happens when you're fighting to be heard, fighting to be seen, and still getting dismissed. Whether it's in the workplace, in schools, in medical care, or just walking down the street. That's what black fatigue means. But now, here we go again. Certain white folks, and let's be honest, we know it's not all white folks, but we do need to talk about the ones who are out here doing this, are trying to rebrand our language, taking something that was about us, for us, and flipping it to center themselves. They've taken black fatigue and are now using it like they're the ones exhausted, tired of hearing about race, tired of being called out, tired of black voices, tired of accountability. Let me say this clearly. You don't get to be tired of something you caused. You don't get to step into a conversation that was built around black struggle, black survival, and black truth, and then act like the real problem is that you're annoyed by it. That's not fatigue. That's fragility. That's discomfort dressed up like victimhood, and more than anything, it's gaslighting. Imagine going through the trauma, the generational stress, the constant code switching, the fear of saying the wrong thing in the wrong room, and then being told, well, we're tired of hearing about that. And what really gets me is this. If you're so tired of black folks, of what we say, how we move, what we fight for, then why are you always right there in the center of it? If being around us is too much for you, if hearing about racism makes you uncomfortable, if you can't handle conversations about equity and justice and historical truth, then why insert yourself into the conversation? Why hijack our language, our movements, our terms, and then twist them to center your own ignorance? It's like watching someone break into your house, rearrange your furniture, rename your space, and then get mad when you tell them to leave. That's what this feels like. This isn't the first time this has happened either. We've seen this pattern play out over and over again. When we said Black Lives Matter, they came back with All Lives Matter. When we talked about police brutality, they shifted it to Blue Lives Matter. When we brought up reparations, they screamed about reverse racism. And now, when we talk about the exhaustion of being black in America, they want to take that too, rebrand it, reword it, rewrite it. But here's the truth. You can't rewrite what you didn't live. You can't rename what you didn't build. If the phrase black fatigue makes you uncomfortable, good. Sit with that. Deal with it. Reflect on why it hits a nerve. That's not a reason to change the meaning. It's a reason to ask deeper questions. And I know some folks are going to say, well, it's not that deep, or y'all are too sensitive, but it is that deep. Language matters, representation matters. Taking our words is a form of erasure. And this rebranding effort, it's not innocent. It's not about sharing or understanding. It's about control. It's about hijacking the narrative and pushing us out of our own story. So to the people doing this, hear me when I say this with love but with firm truth. Mind your business. If hearing the truth about racism, oppression, or black resilience makes you tired, then don't engage. Nobody is forcing you to be in these spaces. But what you don't get to do is come into a space that was created out of trauma, out of lived experience, out of real history, and then rebrand it like it's yours. You don't get to center yourself in our exhaustion. You don't get to play the victim in our narrative. You don't get to rename our reality just because it makes you squirm. Because let's be clear, you're not tired. You're just uncomfortable. And discomfort is not the same as fatigue. Discomfort is a signal. Fatigue is a symptom. One can be solved with a good night's sleep. The other is layered in centuries of injustice. Now, I'm not here to say all white folks are doing this. I'm not painting with a broad brush. But if this message hits you a certain way, if you feel called out, that's between you and your conscience. To the white folks who are actually doing the work, showing up, listening, unlearning, standing up for justice, we see you, we appreciate you. But for the ones twisting language to avoid accountability, it's time to stop. Stop rebranding. Stop rewriting. Stop making our struggle about your discomfort. Instead, do the inner work. Sit in the discomfort. Learn why this term black fatigue exists. Learn why it's not about you, but it affects all of us. And to my black people watching this, let this be a reminder. Our voices matter, our words matter, our stories matter, and no matter how much folks try to twist them, dilute them, or redefine them, the truth always shines through. So keep speaking, keep naming things for what they are, keep owning your experience and calling out this type of erasure when you see it. Because the more they try to take from us, the louder we speak. The more they try to twist our truth, the stronger our truth becomes. This isn't just about a phrase, it's about power. It's about narrative. It's about the right to name our own experiences and not have them distorted. And we will not give that up. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and if you felt this, if it made you think, if it opened your eyes, then share it. Start the conversation, keep it going in your own circles, because the truth is, until we deal with the systems that make Black fatigue real in the first place, it's on us to keep calling it what it is, and not let anyone else decide what our truth should mean. Stay strong, stay sharp, stay vocal, and I'll see you in the next video.